This week, Raquel disrespected not one, but two Maloney women. She inserted herself into Tom and Katie's relationship once again, and she even tried to manipulate Ariana into breaking up with Tom.
Raquel is unhinged. Welcome back to the Real Couchwives podcast, where we overanalyze all things Bravo.
We just watched what was supposed to be the season finale of Vanderpump Rules in a pre-Sandoval type of world, and it was arguably the craziest episode of Vanderpump Rules that we've ever seen.
Literally, I feel like more happened in the last 20 minutes of this episode than the entire season of Salt Lake City.
That's so fair, yeah. Raquel was on an absolute mission to take down not only Katie, but like kind of Ariana. It was the craziest 20 minutes I've ever seen, so let's just like break down that absolute train wreck.
Oh my god, yeah, it really felt like I just felt like Raquel was being gassed up by the Toms like so much on this episode, and that has to be why she just like decided, okay, let me just go after each woman I possibly can in this like setting. Like, I just don't understand otherwise. There's no other explanation in my mind.
No, it's so true. It's like they like sent her out there with like a checklist, and she's like, hey, Ariana, let's start there.
Yeah, break up Tom and Ariana. Let's do it. It's like in Mean Girls when they have like the things that like Katie has to do to like achieve to like break the Mean Girls. And the first one is like hot body. And then there's like the break up like the bimbo ex or whatever. Like there's all the like things. I just thought of that.
That's actually so perfect.
Yeah.
So in this case, Raquel is Katie Herring, and Tom Sandoval is
Janice Ian.
Love it.
Excellent. That kind of works too, because I feel like Tom Schwartz could be a bit of a Damien, right? Like,
I love it. That's so funny.
Great.
So we start off. We're actually starting at the end of the episode, which is the kind of after party to the Something About Her kind of soft launch, and Raquel goes right to the bar to talk to Ariana. Like, poor Ariana just kind of thinks that this is her friend checking in on her relationship, but little does she know, Raquel definitely had an agenda in that meeting, right? Like, she goes right into her relationship, into her kind of sex life. It was dark.
Yeah, it was really dark, and it was hard too, because I feel like in her attempt to like, you know, sympathize with Ariana and connect with Ariana, like she's bringing up like all of like her kind of like own feelings and emotions, and she's really like breaking down her wall, and like in doing that she's then kind of like breaking down Ariana's wall and like breaking down her defenses too, like her whole kind of like compassion of like, you know, I know that you're having issues with your body, like you're having body image issues and you're feeling insecure about that, and obviously that's something that Ariana's kind of like talked to us about in the past as well. Like, I think especially in like season 6, that's how she connects with Lala, right? And so to now kind of like see like her doing that on camera with Raquel as well, and Raquel then kind of like turning around and using Ariana's like body image issues and like talking about it in her confessional as kind of like maybe a reason of why like Tom and Ariana should be like breaking up, is just like, what is happening here?
I know I picked up on that too, right? Like in the moment, I think like Ariana probably read that more as her consoling her, being like, oh, like I've felt that way too. And then in her confessional, she's like, oh, you know, like Ariana's body issues are probably contributing to her problems in her relationship. Like,
yeah,
basically blaming her.
Yeah,
like, so disgusting. Also, the words she was using were also so similar to Sandoval, and that's how you know that for sure they had talked about this. And like, he basically sent her out on a mission. Like, I think it was like She Speaks Bravo, who was like, she was literally like his little soldier in that conversation, and she went out on a mission for her to be like, well, are you physically attracted to him? And you know, like, you should want to have sex with your partner. And Ariana was coming out being like, yes, it's not about that. Like, I find him super hot. To which first, like, really?
Gross.
Sure.
Disgusting. How dare you?
To each their own. But then Raquel just like isn't understanding what Ariana's putting down. She's like, I need physical intimacy, the same way that Tom is not understanding that like what Ariana is saying. They just like keep peddling the same story. Like, even after Ariana's like, you know, like I need to see him, like I'm lacking on the emotional intimacy part, and then she's like, well, do you even think he's attractive? Like,
right,
that's not what she's saying at all. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and as you say too, right, like Tom, we've seen Tom throughout this season, Tom Sandoval, you know, obviously start to plant these seeds with the conversations that he's having with Schwartz. We're seeing him plant these seeds with the conversations that he's having with Ariana. But we're also seeing Raquel plant these seeds for us as the audience in her confessional of like, maybe this isn't the right relationship for these two people. And it's like, wow, that's really convenient that this isn't the right relationship for these two people. Meanwhile, you're in this relationship, this secret relationship with Tom Sandoval.
It's so gross.
And you're, as you say, like being a little foot soldier for Tom Sandoval to make sure that this relationship, why we, the audience, would understand that this relationship would be over because we saw it last season in our minds, right? Like,
yeah, no, it's so true. Like, I think they planned this out flawlessly because they're like, okay, like we have this one point, which is that like, we lack intimacy, and then we're just going to not iterate. We're going to like push onto that point, and it's going to be repeated over and over and over again. It's going to come up in Tom and Tom's conversations. It's going to come up with Tom and Ariana's conversations, and now it's going to come up with Ariana and Raquel.
Yeah,
but it's like, because we know about the scandal and what's happened, like it's so evident what they're doing. I think we probably would have caught on to it anyways because it was too. It was too much like of just like a step by step kind of.
Yeah. Like it's like really like hitting you over the head with this narrative, right?
And it came out of the blue too, right? Like there's the first half of the season, Tom Sandoval's confessionals are more like, I really hope me and Ariana could work through it. Like we're kind of ships passing in the night, and I hope that like what happened to Schwartz doesn't happen to us. And then like basically right when the affair starts, his script totally flips, and it's basically like, well, actually our relationship was horrible this whole time, we just need to tell you.
Ariana is always like biting my head off and like attacking me, she beats me. Like, she won't dumb. She won't buy batteries for the house. There are batteries in this house because I buy them for us. She doesn't even know.
We have to get into that. That's a whole other
we
thing.
Do have to get into that.
The worst part of this conversation actually was the end when Raquel actually sighed. She actually, like, I feel like when Ariana was not giving in to what she was clearly trying to set up, she goes, okay, well.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess we'll have our lemon drop shots now, because, like, whatever, like, I guess this isn't gonna work. I'll try again next season. Like, what are you doing here?
It was so crazy. And then right after that, I guess, like, coming off of this failed takedown attempt, Raquel just walks right over to Katie, who is having a conversation with another person and clearly does not want Raquel to be coming into her space, and proceeds to essentially like gaslight her.
Yeah, exactly. I know, she gets so mad, and it's so weird too because she comes up to Katie under the guise of like, I'm here to talk about like your rage text to Tom and like confront you kind of like about how you're behaving. And I just think that like the word rage text was like so specifically like selected because of the history that Katie has with like rage texting. Like this is the thing that Katie is famous for, along with her like her alter ego of like tequila Katie. Like we know this version of Katie, and we also know that the audience does not love this version of Katie.
It's true.
So it really did make me also feel like Sandoval was kind of like, hey, make sure you go talk to Katie.
On her notes it says use the word rage text.
exactly. So it's just that also like just like always starts you off on a bad note when you like go into these conversations and you are allegedly going into this conversation to like apologize and like talk about the issue and like whatever. Like she wanted to talk about like this alleged makeout that Raquel, then like a blind item or whatever that Raquel and Schwartz had made out, and so she allegedly wanted to make peace around that, and instead she like decides to use like the word rage text, and then like what ensues after that continues to just get even worse, right?
And Katie is so distraught. She's like, why are you talking to me? Like, like she gave her every opportunity to stop, and then like it's so weird. I don't know, like Raquel just like can't read the room, and I feel like there's so many opportunities that she had to like walk away, and she just keeps like pushing, and like, oh god, it was so hard to watch. And then she brings up the dogs. I also don't appreciate that you're threatening the dogs. Like, who are you?
It's so rich too, coming specifically from Raquel, who's like broken up Graham and James Kennedy and like been like, well, I have to draw this boundary between James and myself. And like, it's like, so now you have a problem with Katie doing this? It's just the hypocrisy is too much for me.
But it's too much.
Yeah. Well, and also like this conversation, part of what's so annoying about this conversation between Katie and Raquel is that it's the same conversation that we've had this entire season, right? Like the way that the season is set up with, we know that Tom is not allowed to make out with Raquel because Katie's asked that like he doesn't make out with anybody in the friend group. He's agreed to this.
Tentative verbal agreement, as Tom has called it.
Oh my God, I know. I noticed that. I was like, oh, you have to be kidding me, Tom.
Roll the tapes.
Roll the tape, right? But so he like literally agrees to this, and then they like spend like multiple episodes talking about how like they're going to do this, like, right, they kind of both want to break up this agreement that Katie and Tom have, and they want to like giggling kind of like stick it to Katie. Yeah, exactly. And then they finally do it, and then they like just continue to not understand, like before the makeout happened, they didn't understand why it was an issue for Katie, and now after the makeout has happened, they still don't understand why it was an issue with Katie. And just the fact that we've had to have this conversation so many times, and they still like just like the point is here, and like what they think the point is over here. Like the points are not meeting. It's very annoying.
No, I know. And like the fact that they just can't comprehend that it wasn't that he made out with someone. She literally doesn't care who he makes out with. It's that it was in a friend group.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
on a TV show.
On a TV show, like
yeah,
it's so ridiculous. It's so true. Like she does continue to have the same conversation of like, you're divorced, like you shouldn't care, like you don't get a say in this. What makes this whole conversation so much darker, it's knowing that Raquel is actually hooking up with Tom Sandoval, and she literally doesn't care about Schwartz.
No.
So that brings like a whole other layer to this freaking conversation, because Raquel is just doing this to be hurtful. Like she is just doing this at this point to hurt Katie, and that is so messed up.
Yeah. Well, and to be another mouthpiece for Sandoval, who was such a like, you know, vocal advocate for Schwartz making out with Raquel and Schwartz making out with like other people.
Which is also so weird.
Which is also so weird. And it's strange too, because it actually makes me think about, I think it's in season 3 of Vanderpump Rules, when Jax like wants, what did he say? He like wants Schwartz to like hook up with somebody in front of Katie. Like he wanted that to happen, because like the level of hate that he had for Katie was like so weird. And like the level of like pain that he wanted her to experience so feels very similar to what we're seeing here with like Sandoval like wanting Katie to be like as upset as humanly possible about what's going on, and like how Tom Schwartz is behaving after their divorce.
God, no, the whole scene was crazy. And honestly, I have never felt so bad for Katie than in those moments, because like you could feel it in her voice. Like she was devastated when she was like, my husband, like my husband, are you not getting that? And she was like, I feel like we were literally watching someone break. Like it was really upsetting.
I know. Yeah. And I have to admit, I was pretty proud of Katie with how she handled it. In one way, it just also felt like such like, you know, classic old school VPR. Like the level of fighting that happened in this season was like incredible. Like I feel honored that I got to watch it
fast. Honestly, like my heart was racing. I felt sick after. I think I texted you. I was like, I have anxiety from this. Like it was, and even when I watched it again, like my blood was boiling. I'm so riled up. Like I'm ready to fight.
I know. As I was like literally taking my notes, I was like, I had to keep on like pausing it, like write some more notes, and then I was like, oh my God, how much longer is left? Oh my God, there's still 16 more minutes left of this scene. Like there's just so much more worse to come. You're like, I can't take it, please. The pain is too much. But yeah, so no, I really appreciate what Katie did here, and I think that she did an amazing job kind of like holding her own. I don't know how she didn't get more activated, because I definitely know that if I was in that situation, I would have gotten pretty activated.
Well, yeah. And actually, speaking of getting more activated, they're having this whole conversation while Katie's mom is sitting like right next to them, hearing this whole thing. Like, what would compel you to talk poorly and to like just go after someone in the presence of their mother? Like, like just number one. And then when Terry chimes in, because like obviously this is super upsetting to her too. Like Tom was her family. Like they dated for 12 years. Like and like you have this random girl coming up and like being like, oh, I want to make out with your daughter's ex-husband.
Yeah.
Obviously Terry's gonna feel a type of way about it. And when Raquel goes, what, Terry? And then goes, oh God.
I know. That was like the moment that like the around the world everybody just wanted to like slap her. Like, how dare you?
And like that's when Katie really went off and she went, see you next Tuesday. Like, which I don't like that word. I approve this application.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, and also because that's the moment when like literally Ariana like walks back into the conversation. And it's just like, I felt so bad because I'm like, Ariana, like, you have to understand the timing of this. Like, literally, Raquel just did the most disrespectful thing you could possibly ever do. Like, Katie calling her this is not that big of a deal. Like, we're all on board with Katie doing that because it was just as shocking as I'm sure it was for Ariana to, like, walk up and hear that. Like, what Raquel did to Terry was, like, so much worse. Like, it was so much worse.
No, it was so bad. And to make all of this worse... So it is now Sandoval jumps in, right? Like, so he has nothing to do with this conversation. Terry's involved now. Sandoval then, like, I guess, jumps in to defend Raquel. I don't know if it's even to defend Raquel or just to, like, continue to shit on Katie. Because
basically what happens is, like, Katie and Raquel have had this exchange. Terry chimes in, and then Ariana actually like, walks up and, like, hears what Katie's just said. That's when Sandoval also, like, walks up at the same time, and he's like, they were broken up. Like, that's how he, like, gets interested in the conversation. And obviously he has to be part of everything, right? So that's when he, like, fully inserts himself and all of its opinions about the fact they were broken up.
Yeah, like,
they were on a break.
Like, sit down. You don't even go here to continue with the Mean Girls reference.
Yeah. Go here.
And so then when Sandoval gets activated, then Ariana's like, let Terry speak. And it's just like a whole symphony of chaos. And everyone is involved except Schwartz, who is hiding in a bush.
Yeah, the man of the hour himself.
And I really loved the strategic cutbacks to Schwartz, just going like,
are they? Oh, it sounds like something bad's happening over there. I wonder what that's about.
I'm gonna stay. And then Peter's even like, are you literally just gonna hide? And like Lisa also. And then a few minutes later, they're still going at it, like all of them. And then you cut back to Ariana, who is now sobbing in the corner on Lisa Vanderpump's shoulder.
Yeah.
And Sandoval's nowhere to be seen. Well, actually, he is to be seen, but like still in this fight that he has absolutely no reason to be in.
Yeah, no, nothing. What is the expression? You don't have skin in the game. Like, you don't have any.
You don't have a dog in this horse.
You don't have a dog in this horse. You don't have a dog in this race.
Yeah,
dog in this fight. What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to mix too many.
It's your molehill.
Oh yeah, but like honestly infuriating. Also, I saw a comment online that was like, this literally felt like you're watching a Shakespearean tragedy, and that
oh my god
is really what it was. It was so quick, and everyone was involved, and it just gets darker and worse, and like just like heart palpitations.
I know. Yeah, well, and also just the way that like Tom, like I don't know if you like noticed his like confessional that's like interspersed with like as this like whole fight is going on. Ariana's crying in the corner, you know, Raquel and Terry are fighting, he's getting involved, and he's like, I think it's really tacky to have your mom fighting your battles for you. No one's gonna clap back at Mrs. Maloney, which is just like such like a load of crock, because like Tom apparently did the clap back at Mrs. Maloney, and like he apparently did like yell at her and say like some vulgarities at her that got edited out of the episode, which is like quite convenient for this version of his confessional.
I'm surprised they did that. I don't know why they took it out, but apparently he told her to like shut the F up, and like Katie's brother had to get involved as well.
Yeah, like multiple times.
And it's like, honestly, I think Tom Sandoval projects so much onto Katie. It's actually wild. Like, Tom, you are the one who's always trying to stick up for Schwartz and insert yourself and fight all of Schwartz's battles. You're fighting Raquel's battles, like, just because it's Katie's mom. And like, if anything, like Katie's mom 100% like has a right, and like you would understand
a reason
why she would be saying this. Like, no mom's just gonna sit there and let their daughter get like completely obliterated.
Yeah, exactly.
And even like to Terry's defense, like when Katie was being super, you know, snappy.
Yeah.
Carrie was like, no, like, stop that. Like, she didn't want her to go there.
Yeah.
Which, like, and I understand why Katie did, because, like, I don't know how.
I would go there too.
No, exactly. But it's just like, he's so full of it. Or when he starts yelling that Katie is like takes no accountability, it's just like, are you literally just talking about yourself? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Well, and even this whole, like, it's very tacky to have your mom fighting your battles for you. I just thought was, like, so rich, because it's like, well, A, you're always like, you're here fighting Raquel's battle right now, but also, like, isn't it also tacky to take $250,000 from your mom's retirement fund and, like, open your own restaurant and then go be a rock star for 3 years and, like, not actually open the restaurant and, like, potentially, like, have, like, lose your mom's retirement savings? Like, let's talk about tacky here, Mr. Tacky. Like, he is the epitome of tacky too, with those freaking, like, sequin outfits. Like, I like glitter, and I'm saying that those outfits are tacky.
It's just, oh my god, I absolutely can't handle it. Yeah. It was just like, it was honestly crazy. Like, those last 20 minutes, you just felt for so many people, and then when you actually take a step back, you're like, Raquel basically single-handedly caused this entire wreckage, like, at the end, and then Guillermo comes out with Lisa's cake, and everyone is just, like, crying, and I think Lisa even goes like, oh god, I hope that's not for me.
I know, it was actually kind of fun. I felt like it was, like, a little bit of, like, a moment of levity in amongst all of this, like, very intense things. And just...
But it was all from Raquel. Like, literally all these people are sitting here crying because Raquel started this. And this was Katie and Ariana's night. Yeah. And she took both of them down.
Yeah. I know. Well, and also, like, I always have a problem with the fact that, like, this is how these episodes are supposed to be structured, right? Like, this is the season finale. So, like, we're guaranteed usually at a season finale to have a big explosive fight that, like, kicks us off for the reunion. And just, like, the way that, like, this, like, left me feeling like this didn't feel like a fun kind of, like, light note. And even, like, Lisa, like, doing her, like, little speech at the end, I'm like, I can't believe that this is how the season was going to end before Sandoval happened. Like, this would have been the last scene that we would have seen. We would have just been like, oh, okay. Like,
just like, I don't feel great. And also Scheanna wasn't there because she had COVID apparently, and I can't help but wonder, like, would Scheanna also have been sticking up for Raquel at this point?
Oh,
like,
1,000,000%.
Yeah. It's probably really good for her that she wasn't there, because then she would have more things to make up for.
I think so.
At the reunion. But yeah, that was insane. And then the fact that Schwartz literally just hid in a bush.
I know. Well,
so on brand.
Well, and then even when Katie, like, pulls him aside and is like, "Are you snickering with Raquel?" And then she's like, no. And she then, like, takes him to, like, the Sir Baxter alley to, like, nostalgic, have a conversation. Yeah, which was great. We obviously all appreciated that we're finally back in the Sir alley. But, like, she, like, tries to, like, confront him, and he, like, his, like, first deflection is like, well, you also beat down my confidence. And then, like, when Raquel, like, walks in and tries to interject herself in this conversation again, he, like, wants her to be heard. And I'm just like, Tom, like, he clearly just wants the girls to be the ones that are, like, fighting these battles, right? Well, and he just, like, wants them to, like, hash it out and, like, keep him out of it.
He's just gonna be, like, scot-free off in the corner. Well, that's exactly it. So that leads to the last assault verbal assault, I guess.
Verbal assault.
That Raquel has, which is when she goes back and inserts herself into Tom and Katie's conversation.
Yeah.
I was listening to, I think it was Kristen's podcast with one of their friends, and apparently, like, what had kind of fueled that was one of their friends told Raquel, like, you're looking really bad right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should check yourself. Like, when she was talking to Katie and Terry. And somehow she took that as going in and, like, I guess trying to rattle off some sort of apology. It felt very robotic too.
It did.
She was like, you are upset and it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And it's more hurtful because it's me.
Yeah, exactly.
And Katie's like, what are you doing?
That Tom made out with somebody. I won't say who that somebody is.
and just so slow. Like, she couldn't get the words out of her mouth.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like, Tom, like, the way that he behaves in that scene between Katie and Raquel is that he's like, he tells Katie to like not push Raquel when like Raquel comes to like first like start the conversation, and Katie literally does like this to her. Like she just kind of is like, no, like don't, like she didn't want her like near her. She didn't want her like touching her, like, but she wasn't pushing Raquel. And for Tom to be like spewing that narrative to us as the audience of like, Katie's so aggressive right now, Katie's about to push Raquel, when like Katie should push Raquel.
We don't condone violence.
We don't condone violence, but Katie should have pushed Raquel. She should have gotten a freebie on that one.
It was just like, why? Yeah, and Tom is like, look, she's apologizing.
Yeah,
that was a real apology. Like,
that's a sincere apology right there. Like, no,
he really, oh gosh. And then Katie's like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with you. And he's like, no, you're not. Like, he's really just going with his little good guy like confused shtick up until the very end.
Yeah. Well, and Katie even says to him, like, I don't want her apology. And he's like, oh, what? And she's like, I just said that. And it's like, Schwartz, you're really, oh God, I feel like his appearance on Watch What Happens Live really makes a lot more sense to me now after having like seen this scene, just because he really doesn't listen. Like he really truly like doesn't process things in the moment, and he just kind of like spews stuff, and he's like, she's trying to apologize, I think she's being sincere, you should listen to her, I don't understand why you have a problem with us making out. It's just
what a disaster.
Hot mess express.
What a complete and utter disaster. And that's the way you wanted to end the season, Raquel.
Apparently she got her apology in. She, confronted all these ladies. I think she thought that she was doing a great job, like making bank, like she was going to be like setting herself up for success for the next year, justifying her coming back, getting a renewed contract. And we unfortunately just had to witness it.
I feel like I'm still processing this. I can't wait till the reunion. Although I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like handle the reunion, like honestly. And also just like the way they set up the next one.
Yeah, that's just it. I don't know how I'm gonna like be able to process the next episode, knowing that that's literally Sandoval. Like we are watching Sandoval next episode.
We finally made it. I know, and like the way that they went right into the trailer just made it hit so much harder.
I know.
It was actually so funny. I was watching with my boyfriend, and he's like, stop. He's like, they did not just have Kristen walk out like Thanos style, like Marvel, like with a slow pan and like the dramatic entrance.
The like Nike slides too. So good. And then the Mr. Burns, excellent.
And then I feel like in one of the episodes we were like, oh, is there like a Marvel and like a Marvel VPR Bravo crossover?
Yeah.
We got it in the Watch What Happens Live that had Katie with Karen.
Gillian?
Who plays Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my God, amazing.
She's a VPR fan, apparently.
The MC universe continues to expand, and now it includes Bravo. We love that. I don't know. Let us know how you guys are feeling about this whole Raquel thing, and like this most recent episode obviously has so much to unpack. So if you guys have thoughts and feelings, let us know in the comments down below.
Exactly. And then moving right along, because that wasn't it. That was only the 20 minutes of the episode. And
hard to believe.
At the beginning of the episode, we had the Toms working really hard to disrespect Ariana and peddle their really warped story of their relationship. But before we get into that, please like and subscribe if you like Real Couchwives podcast. You want to see us at BravoCon. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers to get there. So please hit that subscribe button. It's our 20th podcast episode, and that's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So we start the episode, we have like a whole bunch of like random scenes that kind of like kick us off. And then obviously the first scene that we get about this Tom and Ariana relationship is actually between the two Toms. They're finally, they're at Schwartz and Sandy's. They're kicking back. Their booth has arrived. So they have this little sit down. And obviously, yet again, it is an opportunity for them to talk about Ariana and just like talk shit about Ariana and how she's the worst girlfriend in the entire world.
This is what makes me think like 100,000% Schwartz now knows about Sandoval, and not only knows, but he is like now complicit and helping Sandoval. Participating, and he's helping Sandoval basically tell this false narrative that Ariana's a bad partner and that's why they're going to be breaking up. Like, so much so that he's literally teeing him up.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally like, oh, how's it going? Oh, like, yeah, that's really bad. Like, if two people are like not nice to each other, that can just like snowball. And like, he's just kind of like co-signing this like BS narrative that Sandoval has brought out of thin air.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it makes me wonder about like the behind the scenes conversations that like must have had to happen for them to like orchestrate this, and for like Schwartz to come on board and decide that he was going to do this to like help support Tom and like help them break up in this this season. I don't know, I think it's such a tiny little thing, but I feel like at the beginning of this conversation, even before they start talking about the Ariana thing, like the way that these guys are so disrespectful to Ariana and Katie, like
I wrote that down too.
Yeah,
I know, because this is not the first time that they have belittled their sandwich shop.
No, okay, that's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah,
he says their little spot is so manageable, and
so
it's just
manageable.
Like, and it's just like, how dare you? These girls have literally, they've got a spot, they've paid for the deposit for it. They're getting investors. They have like a chef consultant. They have 4 sandwiches that are ready to go. Like, they already know that those 4 sandwiches are going to be on their menu. And you yahoos are like, once again, having like your 18th menu tasting because you keep on like getting chefs and losing chefs and firing chefs and then like wanting new chefs and like all of this stuff. And you know what groundbreaking food you ended up on your menu? Pogos. You have
Do they actually have pogos?
They do. They have pogos. I don't know if they're elevated pogos. Gourmet pogos, like hand-breaded pogos. But like, it's just
breaded
like,
by Sandoval himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they didn't have a chef.
Because they don't have a chef. They don't have any line cooks. You know, that was the one thing that they forgot to get when they were like making this restaurant.
Making the booth. I think this is now the booth that they talked about that had like someone who quit that they couldn't make the booth.
That they needed to throw some more money at that guy to get the. And so yeah, that is our question answered there, because we were speculating what this booth looks like, and so now we know it's a sitting booth. But
yeah. So,
anyways, sorry. Yeah. That was my little tangent.
No, I had wanted to talk about that too, because like they've done it now like multiple times and they go, I'm so jealous, like their space is so small and it's so manageable, tiny. Like, wow,
oh, cute little business girls, you guys got this. Girl power.
They just like diminish their success at every turn, and it's at every turn, and it's like, you guys would have messed this up too. Like, if you had this, it's not that like it's small that it's like so much easier and gonna like automatically be successful. They actually just like have business smarts, and they like learn from the Toms' mistakes, and they actually like put effort into it. So yeah, that like drives me nuts.
Even the like derogatory comment about like, we should have done a food truck, like, as if a food truck is like, that was your issue, as you should have gotten something that moves on wheels. Like, you still need cooks and like line cooks for a food truck. Like,
it's just because nothing is ever their fault. It's always someone else's fault, as seen in the story that they're telling about Ariana. I just like it really got me. And then like Tom Schwartz in his confessional, like he's like working overtime to really like sell this story. He's like, I've seen the way that I wrote down, like they've just evolved into roommates. Like they barely acknowledge each other. It's not looking good. And it's just like, oh God, like you guys, honestly, someone had, I don't know who coined this, so I can't take credit, but someone on the internet called Tom and Tom the Disgusting Brothers. From Succession. Which is, one of them is named Tom and cousin Greg.
They are like them, but they are yet almost worse. I know. Well, and how must it be to be Ariana, like, and having them, sorry, was there something else about the Disgusting Brothers? Did I just interject?
No, that was really good.
Okay, cool. But how gross would it be to be Ariana, and like you're literally like, you're going through this divorce, like all of this is being divorce, breakup, whatever. All of this is being filmed, basically divorce, like, right, like 9-year long relationship. Like, even if there's no like legal papers saying that they're in this relationship, there is like, they own a house together, they do have contracts together, there are issues, I'm sure they have a joint account,
they're
it's
like common law marriage for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, essentially a divorce, and you like go back and you like have to go watch these episodes for this reunion, and you're literally finding out that like somebody that you thought was also your best friend and that you like stood up beside him at his wedding, and like to see that he like was like doing all these like calculated things. Not only did he not tell you about this relationship and this affair that was happening behind your back, like he then actively worked with your ex-boyfriend to like set up stories against you, and to like how would you feel?
No, it's so true. And like even just her watching back and seeing like how Sandoval and Schwartz are just setting all of this up like for like a multiple episode long arc. And she like never once was saying anything negative about him until he started bringing it up. I also have to wonder, like, they do tend to keep a lot of their relationship kind of like, I guess, like fights. Yeah, like they're not super open about the relationship on the show. Ariana must have been really confused when Tom just all of a sudden started like taking scenes with them at home and turning them into like basically questioning her as a partner and like basically putting everything out on the table. Like you could tell she's a little distraught by that. So that's when we kind of like get into her at the house. Actually, I do want to, before we move on to the second conversation, where they start to basically just like disrespect Ariana all kinds. When Sandoval was trying to explain how he puts more effort into the relationship with Ariana, he's like, you know, we have batteries and we have pens and like toilet paper and like I do that. Okay, this is how we know that this storyline is BS, because the best that you could do in it, like already we know it's fake, but like if you're gonna lie, at least lie well. The best that you could do to show that you are a more supportive partner is saying that you buy toilet paper.
You keep the house stocked with all the necessities, including pens and like
wow, she did suck. I'm glad you cheated on her. She didn't buy pens.
What a monster. She clearly doesn't care about you, Tom. You're right. You should have broken up with her. You should have cheated on her with Raquel.
How did he see this playing out? Like,
I don't know.
Do better.
I think the problem is that, like, unfortunately, when Kristen and him broke up, Kristen was going through it. And it was really easy to make it look like she was the crazy one. And it's a lot harder for him to clearly do that with Ariana. Like, she's not taking the bait that he, like, you know, all of these like fights that he's trying to provoke, but also like all of these like, you know, as you say, these complaints that he has about her, like, are that she doesn't make him a coffee in the morning, he makes her a coffee, and that like she doesn't buy batteries, and like she doesn't buy toilet paper, like, and I'm like, I think that's also so stupid, because like I bet you she does buy those things. Like, not, like, what is this?
So the same friend who was on Kristen's podcast also said, like, I've been to their house. Like, Ariana is the one who is super clean. Like, when they have parties, like, she's the one cleaning up after Tom. Like, he's coming in, buying everyone shots. He's like, like dropping everything on the floor. Like, it's just like nothing that he's saying makes any sense. So it's all just like such BS. The way that he also chooses to like kind of antagonize her, like during the worst moments, like, because we also can't forget she's going through so much grief while this is happening. Like, she just lost her grandma and her dog, and she's telling him that she's having such a hard time, and then he somehow flips this whole conversation into like, well, you know, we don't sleep together, and like, you didn't take pictures with me at Scheanna's wedding,
so we can't be in a real relationship if we're not taking photos together.
The way it just comes out of thin air is like, you could tell, like, I wonder if she started to question things the way that he just kept trying to poke her. It was so strange.
Well, and the fact that they're now on, like, in this most recent episode, they're on probably like their second or third conversation in the house, like, about their relationship too. Like,
and he's peddling the same thing. Like, you think I'm dumb and you think I'm annoying, and like, that's all he has.
That's all he has. And each time she rebuts it, and yet he's still like, so he's just kind of like worming his way around and like trying to figure out like, okay, what's going to be my next angle. And even the way that if we transition into the conversation that they have at the house,
I wanted to be smooth and neat about it, but like, we're too passionate and riled up.
Too passionate about it. We're too into it. But he literally, like, they start the conversation. He's like, "Do you want a coffee?" She's like, "Oh my god, a coffee would be amazing." And then they like start talking about like their issues in their relationship. My presence annoys you, yada yada yada, all the usual suspects. And then he starts like fake crying. He's like, I want us to be more intimate. I want us to be better. Meanwhile, you're having an affair. Like,
I know.
What are you talking about? And then they get onto this conversation about like quality time, and he's like, well, what's your definition of quality time? And then she tells him, and he's like, well, that's your definition of quality time.
Mine is shrooms.
And she's like, well, no, that is the definition of quality time. But it's just like, well, why did you ask her what her definition of quality time was, and then turn around and be like, well, that's your definition of quality time? Like, yeah, of course that's her definition of quality time. You asked her what her definition of quality time was. Can I say quality time one more time? Like,
he's just so incredibly immature. Like, honestly, so many things he does is just such childlike behavior. Like, he's just like, well, no, you. Or or like, well, that's not me. And when she says quality time is like doing things together, like cooking or watching TV, and like we don't always have to get drunk, and like that somehow ticked him off, because he's like, well, if we're not getting drunk, like what? How are we even coexisting?
Yeah.
And his idea of quality times is taking shrooms and going skinny dipping and like hand gliding.
Weirdly.
Like,
which I get is like maybe his like insinuation is that it's like experiencing new things together. But like that's also in her periphery of like what quality time could be. It's just super weird that like he thinks it needs to, like, it's just, I don't know, his definition of quality time.
It's also like this was brought up on She Speaks Bravo too, is like those are like honeymoon phase type of activities. Like, yeah, you can obviously still do those things when you're like in a long-term relationship, but like, that's not going to be your everyday quality time, right? Like that's not like point. That's not really the majority of the time that you're spending together. So that's also why he's just like so out of touch. Like, do you even know what it is to be in a relationship?
Yeah,
it's also just so crazy.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just quickly, like, and that's interesting too, because like, did you clock that he's like, when he said skinny dipping, like my brain instantly went to like, oh wow, last week we were talking about you guys hanging out in jacuzzi. Were you guys skinny dipping? Like,
well, there also was a scene in Mexico where Ariana went skinny dipping. True. So it's like, it's not like she wouldn't do those things with you.
Yeah. And in fact, she has done those things in the last month with you. But what? I guess it doesn't count. I don't know.
I think like at this point, he was just so checked out, and he just like has nothing else to say. And he's obviously not bringing this up in a way for them to get better. He's just bringing it up in a way for us to think that he is like validated in breaking up with her and starting a relationship with Raquel. Yeah. Like, it's just so transparent. I honestly hate that we're even like giving him the time of day to say these things.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's just like frantically, like when the scandal broke, I wonder if he's like thinking back on all of this like plot that he put together, being like, oh gosh, what did I say?
I mean, I would like to think so, but I don't know if he has any kind of ability for self-reflection.
That's true.
Yeah, but also like, I think that what's so annoying about this is that this anti-Ariana campaign that Sandoval is like running and has been running like throughout the last part of the season, like in addition to it just being like gross and stupid and like fake and phony, it's like, it's just so hard to watch, knowing that Ariana has been so ride or die for Tom, as she said in the last episode, and like as we've seen, like she's literally been his biggest supporter for so long. She's always been on his side in so many of these arguments, and it's been like at the detriment of her friendships with the other girls on Vanderpump Rules. Like
100%.
It's been an issue, and like, and for her to now also be vocalizing that in the most recent episode, how she's been like shredded apart because, you know, like she's on Sandoval's side, she's on Katie's side, she's on Raquel's side, she's like on all these people's sides, and she's like being like torn apart because everybody is fighting. And meanwhile, out of the three of those people are having an affair behind your back and being so dishonest and so like sneaky and snake-like behind you. Like, it's
so true. It's so hard to watch, honestly. Like, the fact that they did this to her, especially during that time, is just like beyond. I will never get over that. Like, you have no remorse, like you have no empathy. But no, it's so true. And the craziest part too is that like she only now started to even like kind of push back on Tom at all when he's doing his like Tom against the girls camp like brigade or whatever, and like finally she's standing up for herself, and this is what he pinpoints as her not standing up for him. And being like, oh, she never says that I'm right. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we've been watching this show, dude. Like, you can't just say
know
things.
This show better than you know this show.
Like, it's just so. The fact that that's where he chose to go with it, that like he doesn't stand, like she doesn't stand up for him when like she has always stood up for him. Even now, even up until this very episode where she's kind of downplaying when he didn't come home when her grandmother died, and she's like, oh, like, you know, like I didn't really mind as much. Like she's literally still trying to protect their relationship. Meanwhile, he's going into confessionals saying that like she's not supportive, and like he thinks that they're growing apart and like blah blah blah.
Well, and that's just it. And like it just annoys me because I feel like it's just like she's feeding into his narcissistic I can't say that word narcissistic tendencies, and like he's feeding into them himself, and he's like using that to support his storyline this season, right? Like it's pretty messed up.
So I hate it. I hate it. But at least we know the truth.
At least exactly. No, you're right. At least we know the truth. And honestly, like I think the best thing to have come out of Sandoval is Ariana being free, right? Like she's broken up with this guy, she has lost this like ball and chain of hers, and now she's absolutely killing it in the post-breakup world. Like she's got campaigns with like Bic and Bloomingdale's, you know, she's been cast in like a Lifetime movie. Obviously like the amount of like support that's been like thrown behind her and Katie, and like the whole something about her. Not only that, but like they're actually like in construction like right now. Like people are posting like pictures on Instagram and stuff of like checking in on something about her. Like they're in construction, like we can see that it's coming. And then they also have like Nancy Myers is like production designer, like helping to like build out the space and make it look absolutely amazing. So it's going to be such a good one to get to finally get to see. And then on top of all of that, she's also like absolutely killing it with Bravo. Bravo like literally has her like guest starring on Watch What Happens Live next week, and she has like a coveted single spot. Like,
I'm so excited.
The only other person I can remember in recent history that happens to is Lisa Vanderpump, and like now Ariana, it has like been like blessed because she's like she's done what she was supposed to do. She put her head down. She didn't talk to the press. She didn't call paparazzi on herself to like do these little weird TMZ interviews. And she hasn't done this like whole like podcast circus and engaged in the podcast circus that like all these other people are doing. And
it's so true.
Bravo's gonna like reward her for that, right?
I know. I love to see it. She's like, I really hope she just like continues to live her best life and gets so much confidence back, because like I can't imagine the toll it would take on someone's self-esteem, and like to be like, to her credit, like this could have fully broken her. Like she was already in such a fragile state. And I'm so happy that, and like not to diminish anything, because like for sure, like I can't even imagine how difficult this has been for her, but I'm just so happy to see her thriving. I'm so excited. And Sandoval must be so pissed because he cares so much about his like brand and like image, how people think of him.
Totally. That's just it. Like he's like, it has to be killing him that he's like, that this breakup has resulted in her becoming like exponentially more famous, and like all of the success that's come specifically to her after this breakup. It's like
he thought Raquel
revenge.
He thought Raquel would be like the new like shiny thing, and like she would come out winning the season, and he was so wrong.
He was so wrong. He set himself up for failure.
I know. Well, and speaking of podcast tours, there's been so many podcasts I can't even keep up anymore, so I'm trying to listen to like all of them for like tidbits.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. To kind of end on a little bit of a lighter note, I don't know if you caught, who was it on? I think Scheanna had Peter on. Peter's doing a podcast tour right now.
He is.
And I have to say, I'm not into it.
No, Peter's ever the opportunist, which, you know, I guess we have to appreciate, because he's not making the big bucks on VPR, so he's got to do what he can to peddle himself. But
It's just so funny. Like, I feel like Peter, like, because he doesn't have that much airtime and, like, usually he is showing up as, like, a decent friend, it's always been kind of like, oh, like, that's Peter, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely has his, like, creepy moments when you're kind of like,
oh, okay. But why are you still dating 20-year-olds?
Yeah. He, I don't know. I found he came off, like, very, like, cocky in the interviews that he's been doing, and I've now listened to two. I've listened to the one with Kristen as well. I wonder what you thought of it.
The one with Kristen,
or no, just him in general.
Oh, him in general. Yeah, I mean, I do think it is like pretty opportunistic. Like, I get it. We're all like cashing out on Sandoval in one way or another, especially the VPR cast. But yeah, it's just I feel like he's like inserting himself. You know, anytime that he gets a little bit of like a 2 second of fame, he just like has to like grasp at it. But it's definitely felt weird and unnatural.
Yeah.
And I never really understood the friendship between this cast and Peter. Like, do they actually like him, or do they just like humor him?
I mean, I think they were they seemed to be friends at the beginning.
Yes.
But it was more just like, it was so strange how he just like spent the whole time just like talking himself up, and he's like, I have all these businesses, I'm pitching a show, and I'm doing this and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
He's also so mad that Raquel called him a starter pony.
Yeah.
He's like really going off about that.
It is pretty rude, but
it's very it's quite rude, but it's just like he's really pissed about it. And he's also like, I was a cover up, like I was part of this story, but like I don't think that it was happening at the time that she was like trying to date him. Like I don't like I feel like he's just trying to be like, I'm upset too. Actually, oh my gosh, I just remembered this.
What?
In one of them, he's like, you know, starter pony isn't just rude to me. Like Ariana is also loves horses. So, you know, that was a diss to her too.
What? Oh, dude, come on. You are reaching. That is crazy. I can't believe that.
I think she's like, she was equestrian or something. Like, so, you know, like that was, and then Scheanna was like, I don't really think she's that smart.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
like, okay. Oh my god, that's so weird.
It like led us to looking up his merch, because apparently he has merch now.
It is interesting. It is technically merch. It is available online for purchase.
It's a thing. So definitely go look that up if you have not.
Check it out.
The weirdest looking merch I've ever seen in my life.
It's not what I expected at all. Like, when I heard it was merch about him being a starter pony, I was like, oh, okay. And then when I saw like how that actually was depicted, I was like, oh.
Well, what's it called? It's like, is it a centaur? It's like when it's like a
like
half
a centaur,
man, and then the end is a horse. And the man part is like Peter, so kind of like piratey looking.
And then there was another one too that was like also kind of looked like a pony, but like it was just like very crudely drawn.
It was like a My Little Pony, like drawn by a child.
Exactly, like a knockoff. Not even a knockoff.
They didn't get the rights to My Little Pony.
They did not get the rights to My Little Pony. Maybe he should have gotten the rights to My Little Pony. That could be kind of interesting. Oh my god. Yeah, so many of those podcasts, I feel like I've just like gotten lost in the podcast hole, especially for like Stassi's podcast, Lala's podcast.
Scheanna, Kristen.
Yeah, exactly. I was listening to one of Stassi's. I think it was technically from before Sandoval. I think it was like from like February, but she had Christina Kelly on. And I thought this was so funny because Christina Kelly, famously, Christina Kelly on Vanderpump Rules has been pretty bitchy, controversial, never well liked by like the audience.
I'm surprised they brought her back this season, to be honest.
I know, but it was so funny because she was like, because Stassi's obviously talking about like her life after VPR and what that's been like to like leave reality TV and like to leave kind of like these like toxic like relationships behind and like whatever. And Christina was like talking about this time when she was like, like I was working at Sutter and, you know, I was saving up money, and then I went and toured around like India, and like it really just like centered me, and it like made me come back, and I had like such a different perspective on life. So I was like listening to this thinking, oh, this must have been like in the in-between time, like the last time we saw Christina Kelly to now. So now she's grown up, and now that's why she doesn't like feel the need to be like as mean. And then it actually turned out that like this India like trip that she had done. It was like before VPR. And I was like, oh, so that was the version of yourself that was like, that came back and was like changed.
This is your nice self.
This is your version of yourself that has like perspective on life. Okay, it's good to know. Good to know. Not what I expected at all.
That is pretty funny.
It was just like one of the funnier podcasts that I listened to recently.
It's good times. And then James also just came out with merch that's like, what's it called? Like a worm
Tuesday.
with a mustache.
Oh yeah,
literally one for their trailer that just dropped. Like,
yeah, that was pretty genius, honestly. And it's like it's like the worm with the mustache. It's like a little drawn worm with like a mustache.
And then it says VPR viewing party.
Yeah, which is perfect.
VPR reunion.
I think is it reunion watch party?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. But very smart to like do like a very limited at time like a drop of like, okay, you have to order it now before the reunion, and then you can like wear it at your watch party and send me pictures. Like genius.
Yeah, it's I'm honestly like
appreciate it.
It's the weirdest design, but
it is.
He wants to buy it.
It's at least more professionally designed than Peter's. Maybe Peter just needs like a marketing person to like come and help it out a little bit,
right?
Yeah.
Well, so that was a crazy episode.
Yeah,
we clearly have a lot of thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. Have you seen the merch? What do you feel about the merch?
Have you ordered any merch?
Yeah.
If so, let us know if any of it was good and if we should get any too. Because I think we're definitely thinking about something about her t-shirts.
We need them. We need them.
We need them. And I do kind of like the See You Next Tuesday hoodie. I think that's kind of funny.
Right?
But
and you have the number one.
Public?
I know that's some of my problem with a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you have the number one guy in the group shirt.
Yeah, I do. I got it in like an extra large, so it'll be like a nice like sleeping t-shirt.
I love
It's really cute. It's very fun.